Okay, awesome. And I believe this will also be transcribed, so you can go back and read through it. Therese, that might be helpful. Um, so let me know if you want a copy of that. Okay. Okay, I'll move you all over here so you're not in the recording to my other screen. Okay, great. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for attending this morning. This is the member orientation for the Iowa Community Corps. For some of you, this is your first orientation. Others, this will be a refresh of information, but it's really important because AmeriCorps is funded through a federal grant. We have to make sure that we're adhering to all of the rules and regulations that are associated with that, and that we're all in an understanding of what the goals and objectives are of our program, what our performance measures are, and what we can and cannot do as AmeriCorps members and as an AmeriCorps program. So even if you're here for a second or third time, I appreciate you being here. It's always good to get a refresh on this information. And we have a couple of updates as well. So on the agenda, we've already done our welcome and introductions. We're going to do an overview of what AmeriCorps is, and then an overview of our program specifically. We will take a deep dive into that member service agreement that absolutely has to be signed today. So we'll go through each section so you're in a solid understanding of what that entails. We'll have a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about what everyone's expectations are in this program from my end to your host site's end, and for you as well, your rights and responsibilities, timekeeping and what that looks like for you, and then our professional development plan. And we'll have time for questions at the end, but you can also come off mute at any time and ask questions. That is okay with me. Okay, so I'll share a little bit about who I am. So my name is Erin Hardigree. I am originally from Tucson, Arizona. I got my bachelor's degree in environmental science, studied sustainable land and water management. And from there, I moved to very cold Montana to get my master's degree in sustainable food systems. That's where I met my husband, Jacob, and he's originally from Des Moines, so he convinced me to move to Des Moines. So that's how we got here. I worked in the nonprofit sector for a little while, and then got this position with the state of Iowa. Prior to this, I was the volunteer manager for Meals on Wheels here, serving Polk and all of the surrounding counties. So that's where I kind of got my volunteer manager experience. So then coming into this role of managing this AmeriCorps program coupled my academic experience very well with my volunteer management experience. And it's been a great fit. This is a picture of us very sweaty in Mexico. We just went to Mexico this past summer for a good long vacation, and we're back. And that's my daughter, Jolene. She just turned 2. She's the light of my life. Okay, so quick overview of AmeriCorps. It's very confusing if you're not familiar with all of the different branches of AmeriCorps, how the funding works. So AmeriCorps is a federal agency that funds all of the individual AmeriCorps programs. When you're applying to become an AmeriCorps program and to access those federal funds, you can apply under 3 different branches. And as a member, you can apply for 3 different branches of AmeriCorps. And CCC, you might be super familiar with. That is where young individuals between the ages of 17 to 24 travel all around the country in cohorts, and they provide disaster response, conservation, service activities. My brother actually served in NCCC, and he went to New Orleans after Katrina. So yes, that's probably the branch of AmeriCorps that a lot of people are most familiar with. And then on the other end of that is AmeriCorps Vista. So NCCC is all direct service in the community, traveling around the country, meeting an immediate need. Vista is all capacity building. So Vista members serve at a host site for an entire year, full time, and they can only do capacity building services. Our program falls under the AmeriCorps State and National Branch, which is kind of a little bit of both. So members of all ages can serve in AmeriCorps State and National, and they can do a combination of direct and indirect service activities. And they can also serve anywhere from part-time to full-time. So there's a bit more flexibility in what state and national programs can do, and they have all different focus areas and different objectives. So I wanted to show this quick video, but I always forget that I have to like enable that. So I've stopped sharing for a second. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? When you have to share audio, include sound. Here we go. Okay, I can't include sound, so I'm just not going to do it. Sorry, I'll send you the video and you guys can watch it on your own time. Okay, so I've kind of explained a little bit about what AmeriCorps is. It's a federal agency that funds individual AmeriCorps programs all across the country. We do all sorts of activities ranging from conservation, community development, economic development, tutoring, and a lot of things in between. So AmeriCorps members are placed for service at different community-based organizations to complete their service activities. So as an AmeriCorps member, you are committing to a term of service at your host site. Here in the state of Iowa, we have 20 different AmeriCorps programs. Again, all different focus areas, and those programs are overseen by Volunteer Iowa, which is the state commission for volunteer service. So every state has a commission that oversees AmeriCorps programs. They help with all things compliance, making sure that we're meeting all of the deadlines, helping us prepare for funding into the future, making sure that we're meeting our reporting requirements. There's a lot that they do. So they provide monitoring to ensure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. They also receive a good chunk of funds from the federal agency directly. So they also fund AmeriCorps programs. So in the grand scheme of things, the federal agency gives monies to programs directly. They also give a lump sum of money to the state commission, who then turns around and subgrants that money out to other individual programs. So our program is called the Iowa Community Corps. We're a state and national program funded through Volunteer Iowa and private funding, and we're housed within the Department of Health and Human Services. As you're serving in AmeriCorps, it's very important to understand that AmeriCorps is considered its own employment class. So as a member, you're not technically an employee. You're an AmeriCorps service member, similar to like someone serving in the Peace Corps or even serving in the military. So AmeriCorps is a service. It's not a job. You're serving with the Iowa Community Corps, and you're serving at your host site. So as you're completing your service, just be careful about the language that you're using, especially when you're talking to other people about your service. So the terms we use instead of hire are enroll, instead of job, service. You technically don't get a salary or a paycheck. You receive a living allowance. And that is essentially a stipend that you can use to support living expenses while you're serving in AmeriCorps. You're also not, you'll hear people say all the time an AmeriCorps worker, an AmeriCorps volunteer you're technically an AmeriCorps member, completing service. So that will come more naturally in time. Even I still, after doing this for almost 2 years, make that mistake. So yeah, just keep that in mind as you're serving, especially like when you're doing communications that are going to be shared with the public. So here's an overview of our funding structure. Again, we're an AmeriCorps state and national program. Our funds were awarded through Volunteer Iowa. So we have the largest chunk of our funding comes from those federal funds. And then another chunk of our funding new this year comes from the Youth Mental Health Corps grant. So we have a new scope of focus for our program. So our focus areas in the past have been food security and resource navigation. And now we have an added focus of youth mental health. The Youth Mental Health Corps is funded through the Schultz Foundation. These are the folks that made Pinterest and own Pinterest. And so they are big supporters of youth mental health, and I believe have experience with AmeriCorps in the past, and really are passionate about AmeriCorps and saw this as an opportunity to leverage existing AmeriCorps programs to create a cohort of youth mental health Corps members all across the country. So they allowed AmeriCorps commissions to apply to become a youth mental health corps state. And then within those states, programs that were a good fit could apply to access that additional funding by enrolling youth mental health corps members. So because we have our community health worker training that we offer, because our members focus on resource navigation, so connecting people to different resources, we thought the Youth Mental Health Corps would be a really good fit for anyone who was interested in that, helping youth get access to behavioral health resources and providing other services in that area. So yeah, as the Iowa Community Corps, we have both of these funding opportunities available to us, and members who are qualified can serve in the Youth Mental Health Corps, and a handful of you are. I'll get into the details of that in a bit, but for our program, I'm going to go over the goals and objectives. So keeping in mind our goals, this is what we aim to do. These are the different goals. This is what we're going to do through our program and the services that we provide. Our objectives are how we are going to do it. So our goal is that organizations in Iowa will have improved capacity to serve communities in the areas of food security, resource navigation, and youth mental health as a result of AmeriCorps service. We are going to do that by placing 36 AmeriCorps members at 20 host sites across the state of Iowa. And when our members are in service, they will be supporting capacity building projects that aim to expand, enhance, or improve the programs and services at their host sites. We also have a goal of civic engagement. All AmeriCorps programs have this goal. So we want community members to be engaged in our members' service to increase the overall impact of the programs, systems, and resources that our members develop. How we aim to do that is that collectively our members will manage, train, and recruit a minimum of 100 volunteers. So a lot of members, not all members, have in their position descriptions that they're going to have some volunteer management or coordinating activities. So you are not, as an individual, expected to manage 100 volunteers, but as an entire cohort, we hope that collectively our members will leverage the support of an additional 100 community members. We also, again, AmeriCorps is all about national service, but it is also a workforce development program. So we want to grow the community health workforce through intentional training and hands-on experience. So our objectives, how we're going to do that is every member will be on a professional development plan. We'll get into what that looks like. They'll complete community health worker training, and they'll complete on-site service to get that hands-on experience. And our goal is that you will come out of this service with the training, skill set, knowledge, experience to pursue a career in the nonprofit sector and government work and community health in general if you have that goal. So performance measures. Every grant has to meet certain performance measures to demonstrate that we are being good stewards of the funds that have been awarded to us. So I think as AmeriCorps members, it's important for you to understand that you are also beneficiaries of this federal grant, and we are all required to meet these performance measures. So ours are in AmeriCorps. There are different performance measures you can select when you're applying for the grant. There's education, community development. Ours specifically is capacity building. So we, through our program, are going to demonstrate that our members are building capacity for their organizations through their service activities. So what is capacity building? Capacity building activities expand the scale, reach, efficiency, or effectiveness of programs, services, and of the organization as a whole. So what you're doing in your service should be helping your organization to grow, to expand their services, to serve new populations, or helping them operate more efficiently by developing systems, tools, resources, that help operate more efficiency, or by improving the quality of existing programs or services to make them more effective. So you should be thinking about your service through that lens of capacity building. So at the end of this program year, when I collect all of the data from all of the reports that have been submitted by our host sites, my goal and my hope is that we reach these performance measures. So we want 20 host sites to report that they received capacity building services from their member. Of those 20, we hope that at least 18 will report that capacity was expanded as a result of AmeriCorps service. And then we also want to see that number 100, that 100 volunteers were recruited, trained, or managed by our volunteers. So those are federal performance measures. Now that we have the Youth Mental Health Corps grant, we have some additional performance measures through that grant, and we have certain requirements we have to meet. So first, our goal is that of our 36 members that we enroll this year, 25 of them will be also enrolled as Youth Mental Health Corps members. Those members have to be between the ages of 18 to 24, and they also have to serve youth between the ages of 13 to 24 in some capacity. They have to complete additional Youth Mental Health Corps training. So you'll get certified in mental health first aid. And also there are some supplemental modules that you'll have to complete in addition to the community health worker training. As a Youth Mental Health Corps member, you will also have to keep track of the number of youth and community members that you serve. So we will have, for our Youth Mental Health Corps members, we'll have a separate training, or perhaps even a meeting one-on-one where we look at your position and identify of those service activities which ones you need to be tracking, so that it's easy for you moving forward. And then I'll show you how to track that. That will be done in Encore, which is the timekeeping system. So some ideas or some potential opportunity or activities that members can complete in in the Youth Mental Health Corps. They can create, update, translate outreach materials for community supports. They can host or participate in community outreach or wellness events. They can assist with intake and referral activities only under supervision. They can conduct needs assessments, do asset mapping to understand what the youth mental health needs are in an area. They can host group or peer-led workshops or meetings for social and emotional support. And they can also design and deliver mental health, wellness, and prevention activities for specific groups. So it's intentionally very broad, and there are a lot of different ways that you can incorporate mental health and wellness programming into existing activities at your site or pilot new activities. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the member service agreement. If you've already signed it, thank you so much. If you have not yet, hopefully after learning all about it, you'll be ready to sign that. The member service agreement outlines your term of service, and this is all per Volunteer Iowa requirements. So they create this template. All of the AmeriCorps members in the state of Iowa sign a member service agreement. And then as programs, we refine that agreement to be specific to our program. But it just outlines what the rules and requirements are for AmeriCorps members. It has to be signed and returned today. So the first sections of the member service agreement are very straightforward. It just outlines what your term of service is and what the benefits are that you receive as an AmeriCorps member. So when you sign on for AmeriCorps, you are committing to a term of national service. What that means is that you have to meet a minimum service hour requirement, and you have to serve over a specific length of time. So in order to complete the program successfully and access the full amount of your education award, you have to meet both of those requirements. So look in your service agreement. You'll have to serve, X amount of hours over either 32 or 36 weeks. So if you meet that service hour requirement, but you still have 6 weeks to go, that would not be considered completing your service successfully because you did not serve the entire length of service. But don't worry, I will help you keep track of your hours and keep you on track so that you are finishing in the time that is needed and that is allotted for you. As an AmeriCorps member, you'll receive a living allowance that is paid out biweekly throughout your service term. And then you will also receive an education award that is made available to you upon successful completion of the AmeriCorps program. So you all have a My AmeriCorps account by now. That's what you logged into to complete the enrollment form. Make sure you don't lose that username and password because that's what you'll be using to access the education award at a later time. It will sit in your My AmeriCorps account like a savings account. And you have up to 7 years to use that award. So you can send it to an institution of higher learning directly to pay for tuition or other expenses, or you can also send it to a federal loan provider to pay for any student loans that you may have. You'll also complete community health worker training and professional development, and you will also have access to our member assistance program, very similar to an employee assistance program. Through the member assistance program, you'll have access to 24/7 mental health counseling should you need it. There's a mobile app that you can download, and you can go through all of the different resources that are available. You can use this as a personal assistant. They'll help you schedule appointments, help you with medical advocacy or legal advocacy. If you're having an issue with your landlord, for example, you can call the member assistance program and they can tell you what your options are. There's life and career coaching. again, a personal concierge for everyday needs. And then if you're having issues with something specific, you can call them and they can provide you access to different resources and referrals. So they're like the community health worker for AmeriCorps members. How to sign up for MAP? You'll go to this website, All One Health, click sign up. You have to use the company code AmeriCorps. And then when you're signing up, um, you'll need to add the program name Iowa Community Corps and create your login. So I strongly encourage you to do that. Explore the site, become familiar with it. Again, you can go online to access services, you can download the app, or you can just call the number. When you call, you will have to identify what program you're in, but beyond that, it is confidential, so no one will know that you're calling or accessing it. They don't share any of that information with me. They just do need to know the program for their own personal tracking records. Okay, so next section, this is probably one of the most important sections of the orientation. So if you walk away with anything today, I hope it's a strong understanding of what is considered allowable, unallowable, and prohibited under AmeriCorps. So AmeriCorps members can do a lot of really amazing things for their host sites. They provide phenomenal services in a number of areas, but again, because our program is federally funded, there are certain activities that members cannot complete while actively on duty. And this is true for any federally funded program. So even I, when I'm on the clock, can't participate in these activities either. So prohibited activities are written into statute. And there are three main activities that anyone receiving funds from a federal grant cannot participate in while logging hours under that grant. So that is political activities, religious activities, and general fundraising. I'll provide some examples for what that looks like in a bit, but in general, you cannot do anything that would influence legislation, any religious activities, so like leading prayer services, proselytizing, and you cannot do activities that would increase the general revenue of the organization that you're serving at. Again, this is all only when you are on the clock. So when you are actively, serving on site, you're on duty, you can't engage in these activities. But what you do outside of service as a private citizen, none of my business. You can worship, protest, fundraise however you want. This is strictly just when you are logging hours as an AmeriCorps member. So those are the prohibited activities. There are also activities that are considered unallowable. So they're not illegal, but you still can't do them and we can get in trouble. And there's some financial implications on us from a compliance perspective if members participate in unallowable activities. So these would be activities that don't align with our specific grant. So our grant, our members are to focus on capacity building activities in the areas of food security, resource navigation, capacity building, youth mental health. So activities that would be far outside of that are totally unrelated to that would be considered unallowable. Now you may be wondering at this point, what can you do? What you can do and what we want you to do is to adhere to the activities that are outlined in your member position description. Those are allowable activities. So we work with Volunteer Iowa and with your host site to create a position description that is carefully designed to meet the needs of your site, but also that does not include any unallowable or prohibited activities. So as long as what you're doing on a day-to-day basis can be tied back to that member position description, then there's no concern that we might be having any compliance issues. So here's some examples of unallowable and prohibited activities. So starting with unallowable. A member's approved to support a food pantry, but then begins home repairs for community members. So it's a very nice thing to do to help repair someone's home, but that's not what's written in your position description. That is not the focus area of our grant. So that's again why it's important to stick to what is in your position description. And that's true for any job. Member serves as a personal assistant and receptionist for the director. That is considered unallowable because that's not a capacity building activity, and that's probably duplicating existing staff activities or potentially displacing staff that are already at the site. We don't want our members being treated like glorified interns. You are AmeriCorps members and you are there to help build capacity for the organization, so you shouldn't be doing activities that would not be considered capacity building. So that would be, making copies for everyone, going to get coffee. That's not what you're there to do, and that's not going to be beneficial for you and your professional growth. Member spends time physically at the service site, but with no meaningful service activities. So when you're at your site, you should actually be doing your service activities. I think that one's pretty straightforward. Member performs custodial duties beyond what is expected of every staff and volunteer. So, yeah, again, that would not be considered a capacity building activity. So that would be unallowable. Prohibited activities, again, these are written into statute: political, fundraising, and religious activities. So a member writes a grant to the USDA for federal funds for food pantry costs. That would be considered direct fundraising. Canvassing community businesses for monetary donations, again, that's direct fundraising. Leading students in prayer before snack time. Member contributes to an organization's proposal for legislative changes. That's so leading students in prayer for snack time, that's a religious activity. Contributing to a proposal for legislative changes would be political. Driving individuals to a voting location on election day, that's a political activity. And then organizing donations to a thrift shop where those items are sold to support general expenses. Again, that would be considered fundraising because those donations are turning around and being sold to increase the revenue for the organization. So I should note, a lot of you may be participating in like food drives. You're identifying sources of food, or doing other drives for other materials that are going to be directly turned around and donated back out to the community. That is okay, because those items are not being sold and that money is not going towards the organization. Soliciting donations is totally fine. That's an allowable activity. It's just if you're getting donations and then turning around and selling them, that's when we run into the fundraising issue. Okay, next is non-duplication and non-displacement. This one is also super important. So please pay attention to this section. So a host site may not displace an employee or position, including partial displacement, such as a reduction in hours, wages, or employment benefits as a result of the use of a member. Also, a member may not perform services or duties that have been performed by or were assigned to any presently employed worker, employee who recently resigned or was discharged, or an employee who is on leave. So what does this all mean? This is true for volunteers as well as for AmeriCorps members. An organization cannot duplicate or displace employees through an AmeriCorps member. So we can't have a site fire their personal, their administrative assistant, and then turn around and have the AmeriCorps member come on and fill that role. That would be considered duplication of existing activity. Displacement of activities, because they're displacing an employee or a former employee. with an AmeriCorps member, and they're not paying that AmeriCorps member the same benefits or wages. They're basically taking advantage of the AmeriCorps program to operate their organization. It's the organization's responsibility to maintain their existing operations. Again, the AmeriCorps member is there to build capacity for the organization, not displace existing staff. So you can't, as an AmeriCorps member, you can't have the same job duties or the same position description as someone who's already on staff. You also cannot fill in for someone while they're on leave. So if someone goes on maternity leave and your site supervisor asks you to fill in and do their duties while they're gone, that would be considered duplication. And that's not allowed either. The organization should be able to maintain their operations without the AmeriCorps member. And also, if you were dropping all of your duties to then do the duties of another individual, now you're not completing the activities in your member position description. And we're also, then we're running into potentially unallowable prohibited activities. So altogether, keep this in mind. Sometimes it can be difficult when you're at a nonprofit organization and everybody helps with everything. So in situations like that, if there are activities that everyone as a staff engages in, and that's the expectation of the organization, like everybody helps out in the garden, that is okay. But there are certain circumstances where it's not okay. So these are referred to as the 3 E's. So the 3 E's of non-duplication and non-displacement. So when, it's potentially okay for members to engage in displacement duplication activities. One is in an emergency. So take COVID, for example. If you're at an organization that delivers meals and there's a set amount of staff members or volunteers that do that, it's COVID, everybody's dropping everything and everyone is going out to deliver meals, from the executive director to the admin assistant to the AmeriCorps member. That's okay. Again, if it's something that everybody does, it's an expectation that everybody takes turns mowing the lawn out front, then that's okay. And if it's for education, so if you're educating the public about the organization, then that's considered okay. But aside from that, you should not have the same duties or position description as existing staff members or former staff members. Does anybody have questions about that? Is everyone there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is standards of conduct. This is pretty straightforward, but take some time to read through it. When acting in an official capacity as an AmeriCorps member, we want you to adhere to certain standards of conduct. We want you to be professional, comply with the rules and standards of your host site. So if they have a certain dress code, if they have certain policies, we want you to be aware of that and follow that. Demonstrate mutual respect towards others, follow directions that are provided by your site supervisor, and of course, complete timesheets and any other reporting documents or assignments by the deadline. Violations of our program standards of conduct include unauthorized tardiness, unauthorized absences, repeated use of inappropriate language, wearing inappropriate but especially unsafe clothing. So if you're working outside, you're doing heavy lifting, you should be wearing closed-toed shoes, that sort of thing. Please do not steal or lie. No engaging in any activity that would be physically or damaging to others. Unlawful manufacture, distribution, dispensation, possession, or any use of controlled substance or illegal drugs would be a violation of our standards of conduct. Consuming alcoholic beverages while performing service activities, or being under the influence of alcohol or drugs while performing service activities, that would be a cause for termination from our program. And then if you are arrested or have a criminal conviction of any time, you need to notify the program. Failure to notify us would result in dismissal from the program. So we talked about how signing on to AmeriCorps is a commitment. You're signing up to complete a, X amount of hours over a fixed period of time. And the only way to exit the program successfully is to fulfill that commitment. Um, Obviously, there are some situations where it just doesn't work out that way. So there are different scenarios in which a member could exit or be suspended from the program. So you can either be suspended or terminated from the program for either what we considered cause or for compelling personal circumstance. So cause is that's on you. There's something that you did that resulted in you being suspended or terminated, or you voluntarily resigned. Um, that would be considered cause. Compelling personal circumstance means there's some compelling circumstance outside of your control that is a reason why you have to leave the program. So that could be like an illness or um, illness in your family. I had one member where the host site just closed, so they couldn't do their service activities anymore. So there are a lot of different scenarios in which it could be considered a compelling personal circumstance. You have to have documentation for that, though. So if you are suspended, you can no longer earn a living allowance while you're suspended. And the reason why you would maybe opt to, so if there was something that happened that, you had to be out for 3 weeks because of an illness or something like that, we could suspend your AmeriCorps service, which would just extend the amount of time that you have to complete your hours, right? So you don't log hours for 3 weeks and you have to complete your term over 36 weeks. So if after that 3 weeks, you'd be coming back to your service very behind on your hours. So by suspending it, we can tack on an additional 3 weeks to your service at the end to make sure that you're able to complete that service on time, if that makes sense. If at any point you feel that you might need to suspend your service, just let me know and we'll talk through your options and the logistics of that. Exiting from the program, again, our goal is for all of our members to exit the program successfully. We have like specific enrollment and retention numbers that we have to meet to fulfill our grant obligations. So our goal is to enroll 100% of the slots that we have available and to retain 85% of those positions. So my goal, of course, is that everybody exits the program successfully so that we can meet those numbers. But of course, life gets in the way sometimes. So if you exit the program due to cause, again, that's because you resign, were convicted of a felony, sale or abuse of controlled substance, or committed a serious breach of the position description. Or if you exit for CPC, again, that just means something happened beyond your control. You have to complete at least 15%. So you have to be 15% of the way in to be eligible for a CPC exit. And the benefit to exiting for CPC as opposed to for cause means that your education award is prorated. So say you're 50% through your service and you have to exit for CPC, you would get 50% of your education award upon exit versus if you exited for cause, you lose the award completely. Okay, last section of the member service agreement. So we ask for your informed consent so that, if we're sharing AmeriCorps opportunities or doing a presentation at a work group where we're presenting about our members, that you give us consent to be able to, use a photo of you and share about your service experience. You have the right to serve an environment that is free from harassment or discrimination. So if at any point in your service you feel like that is not the case, please let me know so we can address it immediately. If you feel at some point in your service that a grievance has been done onto you, so like there's an action that is completely unjust. So if you, for example, in a situation where a grievance could be filed as if a member was terminated from the program for reasons that they do not believe were right or legitimate, then they could file a grievance. So there's procedures in your service agreement that outline how to do that. Um, all members have the right to reasonable accommodations. So if you have a disability or a situation where you require reasonable accommodations, please let me know. And I will work with your service site to do what I can to help meet that accommodation. And then as far as so yeah, the last sections are just the attachments that have all of these documents in there. So that's the grievance procedures and form, the drug-free policy workplace, reasonable accommodations policy, and most importantly, your position description. So please, at some point today, read through that position description. I don't care how many times you have to do it. We want you to be super knowledgeable about the goals and expectations of your service, and you can log that time on your timesheet. If whether that is an hour of time, if you sit down for an hour and read your position description over and over again, that is okay with me. We again want you to be very well versed and knowledgeable about what is in that position description. So a little bit more on the position description. This outlines your approved service schedule, your approved activities, your qualifications and benefits. So what is in there should accurately reflect your service experience. So again, what you do on a day-to-day basis should always tie back to what is in that position description. AmeriCorps programs, like all federal programs, are subject to audits, and they are regularly monitored to make sure that we're not participating in unallowable prohibited activities. There are 3 documents that auditors look at to make sure that our program is being compliant. So the first is the position description. They look through that to make sure they don't see any unallowable or prohibited activities, that the service schedule seems appropriate. And then, so that's why it's, again, important that you stick to that. They look at timesheets. So they look at when members are serving to see if there's any like red flags on there, if the members serving when the host site is closed, if they're logging a ton of hours. That doesn't seem like it's actually feasible to complete that. So there's, a handful of red flags they look at with timesheets, and we have a whole slide on that later. And then they also look at our mid and end of term evaluations to see how our members are doing. If, you have a program that the members are consistently getting poor evaluations, then that speaks to the program probably not providing the adequate training or orientation. And they're basically setting their members up for failure, which means the program's not going to be successful. So those are the things they look at. So those are the 3 things that I'm, very adamant that we stay on top of. We also understand that needs change at a site, new needs could emerge. And so if at any point we need to amend your position description, just let me know before you start engaging in those activities so that we can make that amendment. Everyone has to sign. So again, if there's a new project that you maybe want to work on, then we can add that to your position description at a later time. Teleservice is allowed under AmeriCorps, but only under certain circumstances. So you have to actually live in the area where your host site is to be eligible for teleservice. And you still have to complete a good chunk of your service hours on site. But if you have a position where you're doing a lot of independent work that you could potentially be doing from home, then we can get a teleservice agreement in place that would allow you to do certain activities from home. So that could be your online training. If your host site also works from home on certain days, like some sites, everyone works from home on Fridays, then that would be appropriate for you to do teleservice on Fridays in the case of inclement weather, and then for other independent projects. So the agreement itself needs to outline when you're going to be doing teleservice, what you'll be doing, and how you will be held accountable by your site supervisor to make sure that the hours you're reporting as teleservice are truthful and accurate. So that could mean you have like a Google spreadsheet that you add your hours to and provide a description, or you send an email to your supervisor at the end of each day outlining what you did. We just need to have some sort of documentation for that. So if you would like to have a teleservice agreement in place, please discuss this with your site supervisor while you're completing your on-site orientation. And then we will get that in place, ideally early next week. Okay, so that's the first half. Does anyone have questions? I'll stop sharing. Anyone have questions for me? Okay. We are going to take a 5-minute break so I can go refill my coffee and stop talking for a few minutes, and then we'll come back. So that will be let's just say 10:05. We'll add an extra couple of minutes on there. And sound good to everyone? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate. Okay. Thank you. You're all there. All right. So see you back at 10:05. Okay, I am back. Hopefully everyone is back as well. You want to give me
Me
a
too.
little thumbs up? Thank you, Therese. Thank you. Okay, awesome. All right. We will. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate that. Okay. So part two, um, we are going to talk about more of the program side of things, but we'll talk too about what everyone's kind of responsibilities are in this partnership. We'll talk about timekeeping, training requirements, and then have more time for questions. So it's important to note that AmeriCorps is really a partnership between three different entities. Um, so that's you as the member, the host site providing the service activity. So you as the member, you're the one that's actually completing the service. Um, the host site needs to partner with the AmeriCorps program to be able to provide that service opportunity. And then as a program, we provide the funding, the support, and the structure that, and the people power and organizational capacity to be able to make the program happen. So we're kind of like a matchmaker all across the state, matching up members with different host sites to complete meaningful service in our area of focus. So as a member, you are a member of the Iowa Community Corps, so that's your AmeriCorps program, but you're being placed for service at your host site. And my job is to support both you as an AmeriCorps member and the host site. So my responsibilities, again, are to develop partnerships with different organizations across the state, convince them that it's a good idea to host an AmeriCorps member, and then we work together to develop those position descriptions, again, to make sure that they are compliant and that they're meeting the needs of the site. Once the member's in service, I try to support them as best as I can so that they have a successful term of service. And then I support host sites by addressing, any performance concerns, disciplinary issues, extended absences, and then helping to make sure the sites are meeting their reporting requirements and that we're meeting all of our grant requirements. The program also handles all the disbursement of all of the benefits. We are responsible for conducting the background check, processing the HR paperwork, housing all of that, processing payroll, managing member files, and then getting the members enrolled, getting them exited, and approving their education award. So all of the ins and outs of the grant is my area of focus. And then the host site is responsible for making sure that the member knows what's expected of them, feels comfortable in their service, and that they're supporting them throughout their service. So the site supervisor provides that day-to-day support and supervision. They should be providing you with any resources that you need to complete your service successfully. So we don't want you going out and purchasing supplies for yourself. The site should be providing you, if you're going to be working outside, providing you with the tools that you need to do that, providing you with an email address associated with the site, potentially providing you with a computer. You're welcome to use your own, but if, maybe you're going to be handling personal identifiable information, PPI, then you would probably want to have a laptop that's associated with the organization for security reasons. Or if you just don't have a laptop, the site should provide that for you. So that's also a conversation you can have with your site. They should be providing on-site orientation and training opportunities. They should be meeting with you regularly to check in and make sure that you feel comfortable in what you're doing, that you're not potentially engaging in any prohibited or unallowable activities, and that you're staying on track. We recommend that they meet with you at least every 2 weeks. They need to release you from your on-site service so that you can attend required program trainings and events. So if we have a required training event, like our monthly training sessions, they should not be scheduling something at that same time that conflicts with that training. And same for check-ins. If you have a check-in with me, then that your site supervisor should make sure that you are available to meet with me for that. They need to be approving your timesheets, and they need to contact me if you get hurt or if there are any performance or attendance issues, and they also need to complete your mid and end of term evaluations. As a member, your responsibilities are to complete the minimum service hour requirement, serve the entire length of your term, perform your service activities, and meet your program requirements satisfactorily. So you have to, in order to exit the program successfully, you have to meet the minimum service hour requirement, serve the full term, and you need to get a satisfactory performance evaluation. You also need to meet all of the communicated program and host site expectations. So that includes if your host site has a dress code, you need to adhere to that dress code. You also need to make sure that you're representing AmeriCorps. So I'll order some gear for you. You'll get a t-shirt, a lanyard, a pin. I'm certainly not going to police you on it, but I ask that you have some sort of AmeriCorps representation on you at any time when you're at your site, whether that's wearing your landlord or just having your pin on or wearing your t-shirt. Do your best to make it, people should come to your site and be aware that, oh, there's an AmeriCorps member serving here. That should be clear. And especially if you're going to be out in the community or out in public, or if you're taking a photo for social media, please always have your AmeriCorps gear, have the A on you somewhere so that people know you're an AmeriCorps member. You should be adhering to your service schedule. So again, in your member position description, there's an anticipated service schedule. It says like the member is expected to serve between these hours. Typically, it's the business hours of the site. So that's when you are expected to complete your service. When we look at your timesheets, we're going to look at that service schedule and make sure the hours that you're logging fall within those days of the week. And then beyond that, what the actual like day-to-day schedule looks like will be a conversation with you and your site. So if you're serving 16 hours a week, is that 2 8-hour days? And what days are those? Is that 4 4-hour days? And what days are those? You guys figure that out, but it should be consistent. Maintain professionalism, attend all of the required program trainings, and submit your timesheets on time. You are also responsible for ensuring that you're not participating in any prohibited or unallowable activities. So by this point, you should be very aware of what those activities are and not engaging in them while completing service hours. As far as your professional development plan, so this is outlined in your position description. We have this year a very structured professional development plan that everyone is expected to follow. So the first is within the first 4 weeks of your service, we want you to complete the public health training for community health workers. So in the past, our members completed the community health professional skills training. This is a different training, but we let members do that on their own time. And we found that members really would just get really involved in their on-site activities, that the community health worker training would fall to the wayside. And then we were having to really pester members to complete that training, and some of them didn't. That was another grant that supported our program. So by the members not completing the training, then we were also not meeting our performance measures. And so this year, we're not doing that. our members are actually going to complete the training, and they're going to do it in the first month of service. The reason being is the point of the training is that you can apply what you're learning to your service. So if people are, not completing the training until month 6 or month 7 of service, then it's not fulfilling its intended purpose. So this year, we ask that you do that training. This is an online asynchronous training that you can complete on your own time. It can take anywhere from 10 to 20 hours, depending on how long it takes you, but I don't expect to see any more than 20 hours spent on this training. And it covers all of the different resources that are available in Iowa. So these are the public health resources that you as a community health worker should be aware of when you're helping community members and providing that resource navigation. So there's a module on nutrition programs. There's a module on Medicare and Medicaid. There's a module on oral health. It's all like very useful knowledge specific to Iowa of the different programs that are available for people. So it's a great training. And then if you're in the youth mental health, you are also expected to complete some additional trainings. So that would be the mental health first aid and then the supplemental mental health modules. Those should also be completed within the 4 weeks of service. So I will send you a link so that you all can get signed up for that training and potentially start it today if you would like to. And then I have a list of supplemental trainings. So if you've already done the public health training for community health workers, there are some options for additional training opportunities that you can sign up for. Or if you identify a training that you potentially want to take in place of it, if you've already done it, we can have a separate conversation about that, but that's a possibility as well. So that online training needs to be done in the first 4 weeks of service. We have our monthly lunch and learn professional development sessions. These are the third Thursday of the month at 12 p.m. So we expect you to attend those. If you have something that conflicts with it, like a class, I need to know now. And we can set up a different situation for you. But in general, it is the expectation that everyone attend those. Those are open to all AmeriCorps members across the state. So it's also an opportunity for you to meet other AmeriCorps members and learn about other AmeriCorps programs. We really want members to feel like sometimes members can feel kind of isolated because they're the only AmeriCorps member at their site. We want our members to really understand and feel like they're part of this larger network of change makers in the state of Iowa. And so this is one way to do that. You should also attend 3 career/life coaching sessions throughout your service term. So that member assistance program, you have access to career coaching. We want our members to utilize that resource. So you should attend 3 of those and document that throughout your service term. And by month 2 of your service, you should identify and join at least one work group that is relevant to your service and attend that regularly. So your site supervisor might know of a work group that makes a lot of sense for you to join, or we can also, you can talk with me and I can maybe refer you to one that I think could be a good fit. But a work group is just a really great opportunity for you as a member to become more knowledgeable about the field and subject matter that your service is aligned with, and also that is aligned with your goals professionally. So in a work group, you have people from all across the state in a specific, or all across the country potentially in a specific field, coming together to share knowledge and do kind of strategic planning around that. So it's a great way to stay on top of your area of interest and also to network and collaborate and meet other people in the field. So that is also a new expectation for this year. You're also expected to adhere to a grant compliance plan. So we, as a member, We want our members to feel like they're actively involved in the management of this grant because they are. This is a way for you to kind of say like you're getting experience and understanding of what it is to manage a grant. So that would include submitting your timesheets, of course, on time. So that's within 2 days of the end of the pay period. So it used to be 3 days, now it's 2. So that pay period ends on Thursday. We want you to submit your timesheets by Saturday. And again, being very careful that you're submitting your time that's true and accurate, and not reporting anything that could be considered a red flag. Submitting monthly check-in forms. So there'll be a form. It will be nothing scary or anything. It'll be just a very quick little form that you'll complete that just checks in saying like what you're doing, where you're at with your hours, how your activities are going. I will review those every month. And then if I see anything that maybe is concerning or that I want to talk about, we can have a follow-up meeting, or you are also welcome to schedule a follow-up meeting at any time. So this will be in lieu of our monthly check-ins. We'll have the check-in form that you'll complete, and then potentially a follow-up meeting if I think it's in your best interest or if you think it's in your best interest. And then you also need to sit down and review your evaluation with your supervisor, submit your sustainability plan. So at the end of your term, you should submit a sustainability plan that summarizes your capacity building activities and lays out a plan for how they'll be sustained after you exit from the program. So this is just a document that you'll fill out. I'll have some questions where you'll summarize your activities and then again, brainstorm how the different programs or systems or trainings, resources that you've developed are going to be used or going to be continued on after you leave, because we don't want all the hard work you've done to come to an end just because you're leaving service. And then the last week of service, there's a survey that I will ask you to complete. That's your member experience survey. So these are all kind of the big, reporting requirements that we will ask of you throughout your service term. Anyone have questions about that? More on expectations. So regarding communication expectations, please do your best to reply to calls and emails from me within 2 business days. I understand my inbox gets very full very quickly, and I will do my best to respond to you in a timely manner, and I expect you to do the same. You should be checking your email on a daily basis while you're completing your service, and just in general, that's good practice as you grow professionally. If you send me something and I don't respond in a timely manner, send me a nudge and I will get back to you immediately. It's quite possible that it got lost in the depths of my inbox. I'll do the same for you. But let's just do our best to maintain communication with each other. Please let me know what your preferred email address is so that I can contact you with that moving forward. So I have been sending emails to your personal address, but if you have a new email address that's associated with your host site and you want me to use that one for communications moving forward, let me know. Make sure that you include AmeriCorps in your email signature. I will send you a template for what that should look like. I'm making a note of that. And then you also need to post the prohibited activities and member serving here signage at your site, in your workspace, or somewhere visible. So I will send that to you. Your site supervisor should also have it as well. Um, just at some point when you're at your site in the next week, print that out and post it somewhere that's visible. It could be a bulletin board, your desk. It doesn't matter, as long as it's printed and placed somewhere at the site. Please reach out to me to discuss concerns with your service activities with your site supervisor. Um, we are here to support you. Your site supervisor is really the person who's the expert at your site. So if there are certain activities in your position description that you need clarification on or you need help getting started, your site supervisor should be the one to support you with that. But I am also available for additional support, problem solving, or especially if you're having any concerns with your site in general. A lot of times any issues are because of, you know, miscommunication or communicate expectations not being communicated. So we can usually address that and correct the situation through simple conversation. And then please stay informed. I send that email out every Friday. If you've been a member in the program, you're very familiar with this weekly email. It is important, though, that will tell you when the next timesheets are due, when trainings are coming up, any useful information or resources that I think you should know about, any compliance issues that we might be running up against. So read those emails every week, log the time you spend reading it, and then attend check-ins and meetings as they are scheduled. Okay, so timekeeping, this is done through Encore. You're all familiar with it, except for Mary, but I believe she had to go. So I will send you the new link for Encore. So if you see when you log into Encore, it will say to select your program year. So all your credentials should be the same, but you'll just want to change the year to 2025, 2026. But if you need any help getting onto Encore, I still need to set everyone up so it won't be available right now, but it should be by the end of the day. So you can log in and log your training hours today. But again, everything is pretty much the same in Encore, except you'll have to submit your timesheets within 2 days as opposed to 3 days. And for Youth Mental Health Corps members, that will be an added feature for you to report the number of youth and community members that you have served through your Youth Mental Health Corps service activities. And again, everything should come to you via direct deposit, same as it has in the past. Just a reminder on the timekeeping do's and don'ts. Please track your service to the nearest quarter hour and not anything more specific than that. Make sure you're reporting your service hours in one of two categories, training or service. So when I review your timesheets at the end of this pay period, I expect to see at least 2 hours of training on your timesheet for today for this orientation. And I assume you'll also have additional training with your host site. So that should be in your timesheet accordingly. So just make sure that you're logging training when you're doing training. Everything else that is not explicitly training is direct service. So again, training, orientation, on-site training, community health worker / online training, and then those monthly member meetings. Everything else is service. Submit timesheets within 2 days of the pay period. Log hours within the window of your anticipated service schedule. So if your service schedule says that you're serving Monday through Friday, that's when you should have hours logged. A new rule that we're implementing this year is no service on Sunday. So AmeriCorps members can't serve more than 6 consecutive days. That's something that is audited and looked at, and in the climate that we're in right now, we do not want to give the feds any reason to think that we're not managing our grant correctly, or that we're doing anything that could be considered waste, fraud, or abuse. So we're implementing that rule to just avoid entirely the perception that members are serving more than 6 days in a week. So Sunday is the day that you should not be thinking about AmeriCorps at all. It should not be on your radar. And yes, that's the rule moving forward. Sunday service is only allowable under special circumstances. So if there's an event at your host site that takes place on a Sunday and it's important for you to be there, then we can allow it, but it's something that I should know about. Otherwise, you should stick to the time window in your anticipated service schedule. And if you have a teleservice agreement in place, then that could potentially allow you to log hours on Saturday or evenings, but still we are going to just avoid logging time on Sunday altogether. Timekeeping don't log hours on Sunday. Don't report time for meal breaks, sick or vacation days. Do not serve hours on the 6 federal holidays that are listed in your member position description. Don't record service hours on timesheets until you've actually done that. So you shouldn't log in on a Monday and then log 8 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when it's still Monday, if that makes sense. So that could again be considered fraud. So you should only put the hours on your timesheet after you've already done them. Don't enter text into that comment box in Encore. I know I've said this so many times, but just pretend that text box does not exist and communicate any timesheet issues via email or directly with me or your supervisor. Do not log more than 12 hours in one day, more than 50 hours in 1 week, or more than 100 hours in 2 weeks, or 200 hours in 1 month. Here's an example of Encore. You've all seen this. You should be very familiar with this. The main thing is just to make sure that you are putting hours in training when it's appropriate, service when it's appropriate, and that you're logging within the days of the week that are listed in your anticipated service schedule and not logging time on Sunday. Okay, so quick review of who to contact and when. If you are late, sick, or have a scheduling conflict, so day-to-day scheduling stuff, you'll want to talk to your site supervisor about that, communicate that with them directly. My concern is not so much with the day-to-day schedule, but more so that you're meeting the overall service hour requirement. So if you have a concern about that, then it's appropriate to talk to me. If you have a concern about a relationship with a coworker or a staff member on site, discuss that with your site supervisor. But if you have a concern about your site supervisor or the host site in general, please discuss that with me. If you have questions about how to complete a specific activity at your site, that would also be a situation where it'd be appropriate to talk to your supervisor. But if you have a concern that an activity you're being asked to do is unallowable or prohibited, then please talk to me. If you need to correct a mistake on your timesheet before it's been approved by your supervisor, then talk to them directly. They can hit reject in Encore and it will bounce right back to you. You can make the correction and then approve. Just make sure that you communicate that to them directly via email and not through Encore. And then if there's a timesheet that your supervisor has already been approved and you catch a mistake, let me know so I can reopen it. Then it will bounce all the way back to you and have to go through the approval process again. Situations where we both need to know what's going on is if you are injured while earning service hours. So at any point you hurt yourself, you get injured, you need to tell the host site, but I also need to know as well. Okay, so some homework. Please review and sign your MSA before the end of the day if you have not done so already. Please look through that MSA and pay special attention to the prohibited activities, duplication, displacement. Really important that you have a strong understanding of what is allowable and unallowable under AmeriCorps, and then become very familiar with your MPD. So take some time today to really review that member position description, understand what your anticipated service schedule is, and then what those specific activities are, what your goals are, and what is expected of you throughout your service. There's an orientation quiz that I will send out after this, so you can complete that quiz. That will just test your knowledge. You don't have to complete it right away, but do that after you have reviewed your MSA and your member position description. Sign up for the community health worker training. I'll send you the link for that. Log into Encore to log your training hours. I'll send you the link for that as well. And then if you think a teleservice agreement is appropriate, discuss that with your site supervisor so we can get that in place next week. And you guys are all familiar with the AmeriCorps Pledge, but I am required to read it to you every orientation. So the AmeriCorps Pledge is, I will get things done for America to make our people safer, smarter, and healthier. I will bring Americans together to strengthen our communities. Faced with apathy, I will take action. Faced with conflict, I will seek common ground. Faced with adversity, I will persevere. I will carry this commitment with me this year and beyond. I am an AmeriCorps member and I will get things done. So that is, oh, can you hear that?
I will get things done for America.
Can you guys actually hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I guess I could have showed the video earlier.
Faced with apathy, I will take action.
Faced with conflict, I will seek common ground.
Faced with adversity, I will persevere. I will carry this commitment with me this year and beyond.
I'm an AmeriCorps member. I will get things done.
Okay, that was some nice images of AmeriCorps members across the country participating in service. This is the old school AmeriCorps logo. It's different now. And yeah, that is what I have for you today. So for the most part, the program is the same. We do just have, that new Youth Mental Health Core component, which for some of you means just some additional metrics to track. And then we have our professional development plan is slightly structured differently, and just some additional kind of compliance requirements, again, because we are a federal grant and we want to be careful about making sure that we are not doing anything that could be perceived as fraud, waste, or abuse. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Or just any questions in general, you can come off mute and ask away. These are my working hours this year. So Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'll be available. And then Fridays, I'm available 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Anyone have questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're getting done a little bit early, which is nice. I will be sure to get that information to you today, so you can complete those homework assignments. You should be going either to your site today or sometime next week to get started on your on-site orientation. So hopefully you have been in contact with your supervisor and know when you should be arriving for that orientation. If that hasn't happened, please let me know so we can make sure you're not falling behind on hours from the get-go. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. I'm going to end the meeting now, or if you guys can hop off and I can stay on. If anyone has a question that they just want to ask me, I'll stay on and stop the recording for that. But otherwise, you're good to go.
Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.